Caro-Kann players, this video is for you. I'm going to show you how to beat the von Hennig Gambit today. It's this position that you see next to me, and it's an aggressive opening where white gives up the e4 pawn, playing for sort of a dynamic and unbalanced position, going for a lot of tactics. So I'm going to give you 3 lines that you need to know to neutralize this gambit. Let's jump in. So it starts off with e4, c6, d4, d5, knight c3. Looks like a standard classical Caro-Kann. D takes e4. Now, 90% of the time, you're going to see knight takes e4. Simple recapture. But bishop to c4, this is called the von Hennig Gambit. It's very dangerous. It's been featured on the Chess Vibes channel quite a bit. And recently, a ChessGoals student asked me, can you cover this gambit and give a recommendation for Caro-Kann players? That's what we're going to do. Knight to f6. This is the first move. We want to simply guard the pawn on e4 with the knight. And now, to continue the gambit, white really needs to play pawn to f3, which is an inaccuracy according to the computer. So we're forcing their hand to play f3. Now I'm recommending you play pawn to b5. This is step number 1. We want to kick the bishop off of this c4 square. And later, we want to kick the knight by playing our pawn up to b4 because the knight helps defend this important e4 square. So step 1, we kick the bishop. They retreat. Now we play pawn to e6. And we allow white to capture back on the e4 square. So we're not playing into white's hand and taking on f3 in this position. So first we'll look at what happens if white captures. F takes e4, and then we're going to look at bishop to g5 in line number 3. So now my recommendation is pawn to b4, kicking the knight on c3, and the knight had a job of guarding the pawn on e4. So now the knight has to retreat, or white needs to play an active move e5. So those are the 2 lines we're going to look at. Line number 1 is retreat. Line number 2 is e5. All right, so what happens if white retreats? This is the most common move. Now the pawn is unprotected, so we're going to take it. Knight takes e4. And if you look down here at the bottom, we're +1 in material. We're up 1 pawn. And notice how the knight on e2 blocks the queen's diagonal. This is a very important point. When you gambit a pawn, you want to usually play pretty actively and go for the attack. The knight on e2 is a clumsy piece and it's getting in white's way. Knight to f3. Now we play bishop to d6. Simple move, getting ready to castle. Castle by white. Castle by black. Both kings are safe. White has 0 compensation for the pawn right now, but let's go just a little bit deeper so you get comfortable in this position. Queen to d3 by white. We retreat the knight back to f6, no problem. Bishop to g5. So white's able to create a pin on the knight. It's an aggressive looking move, but we have a simple reaction to this. Knight b to d7, using a minor piece to defend the other minor piece. No problem at all. Now, how does white try to generate some play here? I think the best way is to try knight to g3, threatening knight to h5, hitting our pin knight an extra time. What can we do? Now we have the knight guarding the other knight. We can move the queen out of the pin. Queen c7 is my recommendation, breaking the pin. If white plays c4, we can take en passant. And after b takes c, we play c5. We're going to chip away at this white center. Really, the only imbalance advantage that white has here was the larger center. We play c5. Let's say they try to line up for some sneaky mate threats. We can simply take g3. H takes. Queen takes g3. Everything is safe. Engine is saying -1.5, and we're in a great position here from the black side. So that's line number 1. Line number 2, we're going back here to when we just played b4. What if white plays e5? This is a good one to memorize because it is a tactical sequence, and you want to make sure that you're not getting caught in some sort of opening trap. So here we're going to play b takes c3. They take our knight on f6. And now there's a key move to know. This is the only move that gives black an advantage. There are a couple moves that keep it around equal territory, or maybe a very slight edge for us. We're going to play bishop to b4. This threatens c takes b2 with a discovered check, hitting the rook in the corner at the same time. So now white cannot play b takes c3 because we could take, forking king and rook. So they have to actually play king to f2. That's the best move. The strongest move for white is to move the king out to f2. So now we can play queen takes f6 with the check on the king. And after knight to f3, we simply castle. Look at this position. We're up a pawn. The computer is saying we're up 1.0. And our plan is pretty easy. We want to play knight to d7, bishop to a6, pawn to c5. So we're going to simply develop. We get that white king in the center as a target. I don't see any compensation here for white. The gambit is not working too well. All right, now let's circle back to line number 3. So back when we played e6, we looked at f takes e4. Let's look at bishop to g5 here. Now, you could skip this next move, but it is good to insert this. It's the strongest move. I'm recommending pawn to a5. It increases our advantage because white needs to react to this threat of a4, trapping their bishop. So we grab space, white has to react, a3. Now in this line, we are going to take an f3. Knight takes back. We play knight b to d7. So again, defending that pin knight, that's pretty easy to remember. Castle. And here we're going to put another piece guarding the pin knight with bishop to e7. This breaks the pin on the f6 knight. Queen e1. We castle. And at this point, white sort of has everything that they want from the gambit in terms of all of their minor pieces are sitting on fairly active squares. They were able to sacrifice their f-pawn, get their rook on the file, but we haven't made any blunders. And we've actually increased our stockfish advantage. So now we just need to prove that advantage. So you look at this position from white's point of view. How do they increase the pressure here? The most logical way, in my opinion, is to play knight to e5, an aggressive move, a good outpost square. Here we're going to take the knight, d takes back, and now we have a beautiful outpost square sitting here on d5. We can play knight to d5, offering a trade of knights, offering a trade of bishops. And the problem for white here is as these minor pieces start to trade off, equal minor piece trades when we're up one pawn, that's going to really simplify our win and reduce the counter chances from white. Bishop takes e7. Here we can take back with the knight. Knight takes e7, and the idea here is the weakest pawn on the board is this pawn on e5. Now we're simply going to grab the initiative. Rook d1, queen c7. We have a 1.7 stockfish advantage. This pawn is weak. Our knight's heading to g6 to put another attacker on that. So that's 3 lines to defeat the von Hennig Gambit in the Caro-Kann. And now I want you guys to check out the link in the description for the free ChessGoals Caro-Kann Quick Start course. It's 10 lines, completely free, and we also have a 100-line Caro-Kann course. It's our best individual selling course on the ChessGoals website. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video.